Snoop Medley Med, aka Chris Medland, RACER, and other folks' favorite Formula One reporter. You and I have been having fun for the past little while about Colton Herta. He's coming over to your side of the pond. He's been there before, training when he was a very young man before coming to IndyCar, but announcing today Cadillac F1 test program. You and I thought it might have a Formula 2 component. Tell folks about this brother because there has been some pretty serious work trying to get him into F2. This is a bizarre one, though.
Oh, that work's not over yet, as far as I understand it. Speaking to sources, that it still could be that he ends up in Formula Two next year. The announcement today said, his racing program will be announced in due course. So, from the F2 teams I've spoken to, they've been sounded out. Most of them seem to have been sounded out by TWG Motorsports about could we put Colton in and what would it take. But I don't know how far some of those discussions went. But most seem to still be waiting to see if they then come back to them and say, yeah, let's do something. So I think it's still actually up in the air. I think there's a lot of risk involved with going from IndyCar to F2. That doesn't normally happen, does it?
Yeah.
But the reasoning for this, I guess, is what everyone's going to want to know, is because Formula 2 offers more super license points than IndyCar because it's the feeder series to F1, and Colton's just shy of that. But also, it would mean that you get experience on all the F1 tracks. Like 14 of the F1 tracks are used for the 14 rounds of F2 this year. He has some experience of some others already, but you'd get a lot of experience there. You get some Pirelli tire experience, which isn't the same tire, but it's similar characteristics. And you
Sure.
just would be in and around the paddock, in and around the world, just kind of settling in and getting comfortable. It is good preparation. It's very strange to see someone as established and as good as Colton in IndyCar coming and
A
doing that.
nine-time race winner in nine IndyCar races, youngest ever winner at 18 years old. And he's going to potentially F2. The thing that I thought was so fascinating that you mentioned to me offline, this wasn't an outreach, Chris, to one or two F2 teams. You told me I was struggling to find someone who said they hadn't heard from the TWG side to find Colton something to do there. So I believe in the most recent thing that you wrote, 6 points shy of earning
Mhm.
a super license, and what maximum of six FP1s he could run next year to potentially get that super license if he were to do all those Fridays with Cadillac. But nonetheless, it does sound like true proper preparation on the circuits in F2, even with one of IndyCar's best driver. He's finished second in the championship before, but it does sound like F2 would be the smarter play instead of just a bunch of FP1s.
Yeah, I mean, for one, it would just keep them sharp, it's race sharp, and it will be with a lot of talented drivers. You've seen how some of the F2 guys have done when they've come to IndyCar, and actually the similarities between the two categories that can help. But also, look at the guys that have stepped up to F1 this year. Isaac Hadjar was on the podium last weekend in Zandvoort in a Racing Bulls car, and he was the runner-up last year. It was Gabriel Bortoleto who won the title. Ollie Behrman obviously did a great job, top six on Sunday. He came out of F2, Kimi Antonelli in a Mercedes. It schools drivers really well for it. So I actually think in many ways, there must be a bit of swallowing pride having to go on because to be, such a big dog in the IndyCar world and so successful, to then have to go to some place where it could be quite humbling. It's very tough if you're not in the right car, and it's very tight between certain teams and drivers. That there's no guarantee Colton would actually do that well straight away. But don't forget, Cadillac have signed Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez to race them next year, and the plan is beyond that as well. It's multi-year deals, I'm told, for both drivers. Well, if Colton was being prepared, it could be that, yes, he absolutely smashes it next year in F2 if they race him in F2, and then he's ready for 2027 if you want to put him in. But it could also be that that's a learning year to kind of go, wow, that's what this world's like, while he's also part of the team in the test driver role. And then he could step into the Formula One seat maybe in 2028 when he's done another year in F2 to get the super license points. And that's what it would really come down to if he did 2 years there. Of course, at that point, he's into his late 20s, but he'd have great experience across IndyCar, F2, and then getting into F1 with 2 years as a test driver. So he'd be very well prepared to be successful. And that's one thing I do want to point out here. The amount of times we talk about how great would it be to see an IndyCar driver in F1 or an American driver in F1. But Logan Sargent had that chance, underprepared in at Williams. It didn't go well. And people don't get excited if you're not performing well or not fighting at the front. Now, if Colton is to have a chance fighting at the front, he needs Cadillac to be more established as a team too. So the timeline could work quite nicely. Obviously, no guarantee. Right now, it's just that they said he's going to be a test driver for the F1 team. But that means, as you pointed out, Marshall, he will be in Europe a lot of the time. He will want to be around the team. Being in Formula 2 would allow him to do that as well. So that's why that door has opened. And this week I'll get to see all the F2 teams in Monza, and I'm going to be knocking on
Yeah.
all the doors, just checking. Did anyone not get sounded out? Because I want to see how many plates are still spinning. And if they decide against racing in F2, then yes, as you say, you could do FP1s to try and get the points.
We got to get you at the door here to Monza in just a sec. It would be hilarious if you did find one F2 team that was like, what the hell? You got everybody but me? What are we doing wrong? A couple other quick notes. So, had fun with Alex Palou, new IndyCar champion, and his driver manager as well, of like, how haven't you started? I'll sell you my superlicensepoints.com to profit off of this. Unfortunately, they're not transferable. But the main note coming out of, say, the Nashville paddock last week and IndyCar season finale, Chris, was F2, okay. Boy, it sure seems like you have to have the right spec motor behind you and have to make sure that their folks are motivated for your success. Is that a real thing? Is that I don't want to use the word bias, but there's some folks who complain they don't have the horsepower.
So I wouldn't call it bias, but yes, there are folks that complain they don't have the horsepower. I know of some drivers that are actually going to leave their teams, I think, after Monza because they don't have the equipment that they feel they can perform in, and they see it in the telemetry. But sometimes that's just because it's a spec series, but there are discrepancies. It's a bit of a lottery sometimes. There's been talk that, if you get hold of an engine that seems to be working well, you're not going to let that thing go, are you? But there's only so much benchmark testing you can do. But also with the spec series, you want the best engineers, the best mechanics on your team. And these are still mechanics and engineers that are getting schooled as well. It's a feeder series. So you can get hold of them, but normally someone else eventually comes along trying to pay a bit more. And whichever driver or driver sponsor ends up putting the most money in, because most of these seats are paid for seats, then they might be able to attract some of these other engineers, these other personnel, but they can make the difference too. So even though it's a spec series, there's big differences between teams, and it really can hurt a driver's rep if they're not in the right team. Case in point, though, we're talking about bias, where I don't believe that's the case. We got it last year. Prema, they were running Ollie Behrman and Kimi Antonelli, two drivers destined for F1 with Mercedes and Ferrari backing in one of the best junior teams going, as you've seen the job they can do in IndyCar too. And they struggled. They didn't get their head around the new car. They were nowhere. Behrman finished 12th in the championship. Got 3 wins, but finished 12th. Now, that's not a slight on the driver's performance or on actually what the team can do. But when it wasn't all gelling, that's how it can not go well. And that's why it's a warning to Colton that it's not just about you and your talent. If you come in here, you need everything together. And that's why I think Cadillac haven't jumped yet, or TWG, haven't jumped straight in and said, yes, he's doing F2. Because if the circumstances aren't right, maybe he won't.
Last thing for you, mate. Want to get your reaction. So at least here in the US, when I started hearing about this Herta to F2 thing, I heard it from an IndyCar team principal the week leading into the Milwaukee race, and I laughed my ass off. Come on, where does this crap come from? This is the dumbest thing. Oh, okay, it might actually be a real thing. Then I start to hear in and around Milwaukee, Will Power might be heading to Andretti to back. This is crazy. I still don't know about Colton going to F2, and if it all works out, he's going to drive for a brand new team that is still going to be fighting to get to the front. Look at Haas F1, right? Hey, great. All these years later, they're still trying to get there. This is not some magic cheat code. F2, super license, front of the grid in F1. This is maybe a lot of work to fight from the back of the grid. But I know over here the reaction's been, I hope it works out, but if it doesn't, I wonder if this is going to be a career killer. What's the reaction been on your side of the pond, mate? Colton Herta, established IndyCar star, maybe going down to the training, going to university again to try to get to F1. What's the reaction been?
I think there's two sides to it, to be honest. One has been it'll be a big story, it'll be interesting and exciting, but he better be prepared, and TWG better be prepared for the challenges that could await in Formula 2. And don't expect him to come in and absolutely kill it straight away. That would be brilliant if he did, but as we pointed out, just talking about teams and machinery and how it can play out for different drivers, it's far from a guarantee that just your talent alone will get you there. But also, I think there is a big chunk of respect that if it does happen, that goes, you've seen what you need to kind of have a better chance of reaching F1. Maybe we can talk about the ladder in the future about whether it's correctly structured or not. And maybe IndyCar should be a closer link to F1 in terms of the super license points and certain things that are more transferable to give drivers a chance of being successful just coming straight across. But as the case is right now, that isn't the case. And therefore, to have like I say, to be able to suck it up a little bit and go, I think that would really help me. Like, it certainly wouldn't hurt me if he's going to be the test driver and he wants to get into an F1 seat with Cadillac or any other team. If he then goes and proves himself in F2 but gains some extra experience while he's doing the test driver role, that is better than not. And I think for a number of drivers, their ego would get in the way and say, I'm not going down there because that's a step down. And it is, let's be honest, from IndyCar to F2 is a step down. But I think it really does show the respect for, if I want to get to F1, it's not as easy as just jumping in an F1 car and being quick. There's so much more to it. I need to prepare myself the best I can. And fair play to him on that front. So there's kind of both reactions. Of course, they're both tempered right now because we don't know for sure he's going to do it. But with the feeling that he might, that's why it's kind of, that's the way people are sitting.
45-year-old six-time IndyCar champion Scott Dixon announces move to Formula 2. I hope this doesn't start a wave, mate. Again, I know we got to let you go here. Greatly appreciate you. Hope everything works out for Colton. He's an amazing kid, amazing talent. This is one of the wild ones. I'm sure this won't be the first time we talk about it, but thanks again, as always, Chris, and definitely your work on RACER. It's something I look forward to each day.
Thanks for having me on, MP. I am going to leg it to the airport because if I don't make it to Monza, I can't find out what's going on.